Okay, so in this video, I'd like to talk a little bit about electronics and what's commonly used for 10 scale F1, just in general, and more specifically for the ALF1’26 builder's kit. So with everybody's kit, you should have gotten a Baton D135F servo. This is Metal Gear ball bearing servo, digital. This has been a really great servo. Had very few failures, really good resolution and speed. Pricing for the servo was really attractive, and we thought it would be best to include it in the kit. Not something that's typically very normal for most kits, but since we were not including a rear axle, we thought that that maybe was a good trade-off. So you can see here, the servo is mounted up in the front. As we work our way backwards, you can see the receiver. So I use FlySky. This is a FlySky AMP protocol 4-channel receiver. It's antennaless, so it sits here mounted onto the electronics tray. Next to it is my speed control. This is a Hobbywing XR10 stock spec. This has been a really great speed control. There are less expensive models that you can get. The biggest thing to mainly be concerned with is that the speed control is capable of blinky or no timing. The next thing to consider is if you're racing, you'll likely need a transponder. This is my transponder here. It's servo taped to the speed control. Some individuals will want to mount their transponder, farther forward on the chassis or up by the wing. All that stuff is perfectly fine. I like to mount my transponder onto the speed control, so that way if I remove the tray, all of the electronic components are removed at the same time. There's really no right or wrong way to do this, just more personal preference. Moving more rearward, you can see I've got a 2-cell shorty LiPo. It's mounted in here just with the standard battery box. I have the aftermarket battery strap on here right now that we've been testing, but just your standard conventional 2-cell shorty. Nothing particularly very special about one versus the other. The one thing you do have to keep in mind is whether the shorty battery is a standard height or a low center of gravity height, or LCG pack. So you can see that here. I've got an LCG here, it's considerably shorter, and a standard shorty, which has considerably more height. To mount one versus the other, I recommend trading out the included battery box. So now moving rearward to the back of the chassis, we have our 540 brushless motor. Typically, everybody is running 540 motors, either 25.5 or 21.5 motors. All of them are going to be sensored. So this is your sensor wire here, and it runs up to the speed control. It plugs in down here at the bottom. Most clubs in the United States are running 25.5, which is going to be a slower motor compared to the 21.5 that is more common in Europe. So now we've kind of gone over what each component is, where it's located, and a little bit about each one. There's no way you have to do this. I've had a few questions of the way I do it, so I wanted to make a video and highlight how my personal car is routed. There's probably better ways to do this. This is just kind of what I've seen, and over the years of learning about F1, this is my best solution. One thing to really consider and to keep in mind with 10th scale Formula One and really any pan car is you don't want the motor wiring to be too tight. Because of the way the pod moves, you don't want this to influence the spring rate or how the car reacts. You don't want it to keep the pod up, preventing it from full droop. You don't want it to be pushing on the pod left to right. So you really want to make sure that your motor wires are pretty free. Also, one thing to check is when you put your body on, that the motor wires aren't being pinched down to the chassis. The rest of it's pretty straightforward. Similar, the battery wires, you want to make sure that they're not hitting the body. there's not really too much to worry about in the front. I typically just, zip tie the servo wire down. Just try and keep everything clean and tidy. I'm not a professional at this, but this is kind of my layout, and this has worked really well for me in the past.